So you literally have one cheek on, one cheek off right now.
Kind of. Yeah, like that. That's one cheek on, one cheek off. That's like kind of the crack.
I don't think this bench is going to support us both.
What are you talking about? It should be out of wood.
All right, ready? Another 200 pounds. This must be an IKEA desk. What do you think?
Might be.
No, it's kind of wobbly. What's going on, guys? Anthony Owens here. Welcome back to another 2-Minute Tuesday. Guys, today is going to be a little bit different, the topic today. Most of us, we talk about losing weight, dieting, shredding, things like that. But there are some of you out there that are looking to bulk, looking to put on size. So I decided to have my good friend Marco come in and talk a little bit more about putting on size and gaining weight and muscle and stuff like that. It's a different spectrum to what we normally talk about, where I'm always trying to shred. This guy's trying to get as big as possible. It's crazy. So Marco, tell these guys a little bit about yourself.
I've been athlete my whole life. Competed as a wrestler collegiately. Took some time off, and then these past few years I really shifted away from being an athlete like that versus doing the bodybuilding side now. So I've been focusing on that. Been fortunate enough to work with some really great coaches. Work out at a really good gym where I have the support that I need, and really learned a lot. And a big part of that is coming to learning about my actual body type and what works best for me. You get a lot of cookie cutter stuff, and you got a lot of internet bro science that people try to throw at you, but I've definitely learned that it's all very individual. And you got to find out, trial and error, what works best for yourself.
You had mentioned you wrestled in college.
Right.
Were you this size in college?
More or less body weight, a little bit less. I've definitely put on quite a bit more mass now, but I mean, in college I was still competing at around 265 range. It was 275 when I graduated high school. So when you just jump to that higher competitive level, you trim down a little bit more of the weight. But I've always been more or less this body type. But since I've been focusing more on the actual bodybuilding aspect of things, I've been able to to dial things in where I've been able to lean out and then also put on the mass that I've wanted. I
just had this picture in my head of a 300-pound grizzly bear taking on like Napoleon Dynamite in spandex. That, I don't know, that was just what popped in my head, is being that big and trying to wrestle. Like, who in their right mind would wrestle you at that size? But so recently you had, let's see, one of your coaches was Alina Popa, right?
Correct. My first coach when I got into bodybuilding was Lena Popa, and then I currently train with Dorian Haywood out of Armbrust Pro Gym.
Everybody knows that guy, right? Good dude for sure. Funny fact, we were doing a demo out in at the Rocky. Let's see, it was either last year or the year before that. And Dorian popped up. I had never met him personally, and he introduced himself to me, and we started talking at the booth. And I had this thought pop in my head, and I don't know why, but I was like, Dorian Yates, right?
Absolutely not.
Okay, keep in mind, Dorian Yates is like superstar bodybuilder. But either way, I made the mistake of saying his last name. Like, I don't know why it popped in my head, but so he just kind of rolled his eyes at me and smirked, and he's like, yeah, okay, for sure. You get to work out with him all the time.
Correct. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Usually about twice a week we get in there, and then we do, switch up our days, with the split that he has set up for me. So, and then outside I'll train with myself or other people who train along with me at the gym.
Sweet. So like on like a heavy lift day, so like when we talk about like dieting, shredding, things like that, like we're always going to be at a calorie deficit, and we're trying to get as close to our carbs and our macronutrients as possible without ever going over. Like for someone like you, I mean, what does your carbs look like on like a heavy lift day? Like how many grams of carbs do you think you consume? Protein?
So protein wise, I'm always around the same. Usually, they usually say like gram and a half per pound. So even though like right now, like I'm sitting at about 310 right now, my protein intake is right around the 275, 300 range right now. I personally am starting to cut down a little bit to get geared up towards the summer, but I'm still sitting at about 350 on my carb intake a day. Again, it works differently for everybody. For me, I'm actually a little bit carb sensitive, so my insulin levels actually tend to spike up with larger amount of carbs, where I've definitely found over the past few years that I don't need a lot of carbs to still put on size. I mean, I've done everything from a ketogenic diet, right, where I leaned out, but I was able to still put mass on. But I found that still introducing those carbs into my diet was needed to put even more size. But I personally don't require a lot of carbs, where you might have someone who's naturally more on the lean side, that they need that 400 grams of carbs a day to get big. Where for me, I mean, realistically, I could be taking in 150 to 200 and I'm still putting on size.
That's crazy. Yeah, you were telling me the other day about you were doing a keto diet and you were still putting on size, where like the consensus is you do keto, you drop weight, but like for you, so that's just your body type. But yeah, you've got like smaller dudes like that weigh less, like they need a lot more carbs. Maybe their burn rate through carbs is a little bit higher than yours, but either way, like you got to eat, put on some size.
Yeah,
sure.
Again, like I said, it all comes down to body type. For me, I've always been, on the growing up, I was like the husky kid, so I was always on the bigger side. Where in bodybuilding, I've been on the opposite end of the spectrum, where putting on size has never been the difficult part, right, for me. It's right, the leaning out,
peeling it
versus
all out.
I know pros who train at the gym who, if they're not consuming a minimum of 6,000 calories a day, they're going to shrink, where I can eat 2,500 calories a day and still put on size.
That's crazy. So what's coming up for you? Because I know you're in the middle of a prep right now. I mean, you've got one of the best coaches programming you in the state. So what do you got coming up? What are you doing?
So I'm going to do my first show I'm going to shoot for this year. We're going to start trimming down kind of early and really just start, chipping away at the extra body fat, slower, instead of trying to, do a 10, 12 week prep where I'm really just hitting things hard. I was going to do the Rocky last year. Unfortunately, I ran into a couple of roadblocks and some health issues, so I decided to just hang that up for last season. And then this year, chipping away at things slowly. I probably... there's a couple of shows, later in the fall, like the Braveheart, maybe even possibly the Rocky is my first show. So, like I said, what show is kind of tentative. It's all really going to basically come down to how my body reacts this year, and go off some things that we learned last season on what worked and what didn't work for me, and really try to dial things in where I can really present, bring a presentable package to
that makes sense.
My first show.
Are you going to be posting like your progress reports and progress updates like on Instagram and like that?
Yeah, I usually do on my Instagram.
I'll link it in the description below. I'll run it through the screen right now. So like go ahead, like jump on there. You can see like the size of this guy is just ridiculous. But yeah, I think that's we're just going to wrap it up from there. I think that's cool. I appreciate you coming in.
Yeah, I appreciate having me.
Yeah, so just the takeaway is, guys, that like it's not always about shredding and dieting and cutting and things like that. There's a lot more on the other side, where some of these big boys, they need to put on that size, and then they struggle with the same things we do too, trying to peel it off once it goes on. But anyways, like I appreciate your time, guys. Hit this guy up on Instagram, give him a follow, follow his progress. I think it's going to be super exciting over the next few months to see his transformation, what happens to him. But anyways, you guys know what to do. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. I appreciate your time, effort, and support. You guys get out there and do something epic. We'll see you on the next video.